Hi friends, I am back for part 2 of this coffee table vessel with the Lucello fabrics. Got my pile of fabrics. I actually found this, and I know it's a little bit orange compared to the pinks and the reds, and well, it's not a Lucello, but I thought I might put that in somewhere as well. I'm still undecided, but let's have a look at what I've picked up. A couple of other bits and pieces. This beautiful old bit of quilt, and I'm thinking I might put some of this in as well as a neutral on the background. I've still got my square. I want to get onto that today, and this is where I've got to. So I've actually folded over the top, and there's room for more to be put on. I thought also what I might do is look at the join. What happened was I folded it in half, and I knew as I was stitching the woolen blanket kept, let me show you what I'm talking about. As I was stitching, the woolen blanket kept sort of creeping up, and I had to keep pulling it down and trying to keep it even along the top. In the end, when I've folded this over and in half and worked out my top edge, this bottom edge was really coming out a lot lower, so that would have meant that the join just wouldn't match up. So I've had to address a few things like that as I was going. That looks a bit totally wibbly wobbly, that one. Pin that like that. So let me show you where I've gotten up to. I've only pinned this over because I wanted to have a look once I've got most of my bits of material down, how it was looking. That does look wonky, doesn't it? That whole blanket edge has come right up in the air. It's not going to be too much of a problem because this will be cut off. So I'm going to pin it there so it looks straight along here, even though this is just not right at all. Now, let me show you each of the panels. So this is going to be a half panel joined to this other half panel, and those edges are going to meet in the middle of a panel. So I've started to add little stitches, little bits of mark making stitches with variegated thread, one of my favorites. That's goes from a lemon to a blue to a pink to a darker, more this sort of rosy color. So here it is so far. So this is going to be one side, so that's the scope you're looking at, that much. Then we've got that middle panel. It's not going to be a middle panel, it's going to be a side panel. And as I was going, I realized this has got a little bit of green and a little bit of yellow in, so I have started to bring in some yellow threads. There is that yellow around in here, there is that bit of yellow, so it was okay, I felt. And it just added another brightness to it, and plus when I put this one on, I did a really bright yellow around the outside of that. So far I've got my base layer, which has had all these extra bits added into it, and I really felt that I felt that I was going to join it, but I think I'm still working on it. So let me get this, and even though I pulled it out and thought I want to put a little bit in, it may not work. It might work in little bits, because I've realized here there's a part showing here that is this material, and I want to, you know, add something. Let me just make it smaller, as if it's just a little strip of it or something like that. Just one little strip. I kind of like it. It's very, this gives it a bit more of a rustic look about it. And I have got these old antique tea towels. At the moment it's got, with all of its pinks and its little tiny bits of reds, I guess a newness about it. But these little bits with the flowers, these oldie antique-y looking bits, they're quite a feature. They would be quite nice, especially if I'm featuring more of the pinky colours. There's a lot of blue and purple, which is not really what this is about. It's not been a part of it, but certainly that one will work. Love this bit of quilt, it's gorgeous. So my middle panel can probably have another little bit of something up here. Not necessarily this. I don't necessarily want to take away from this. Although, having said that, the whole idea of the, well, collage is layering and giving enough interest for the eye to see different things, multiple things. So it's quite possible that this is okay to have close by. On this panel. Sometimes these threads hanging down, I love them, and there'll be an interest in the whole overall finished product, but they're not always okay when it comes to having something that you want as a focal point. So if I'm going to look over here, quite enjoying working on this last panel. Now there's the line that I'm going to cut to join to the other end, so I'm steering clear enough away of that. I have to say that the blanket has been so easy to stitch through. It's been beautiful, really. I'm going to use need to use a thicker. I might need to repair that. Just sticking that like that has kind of created it to rip a little bit more. Let me pin it off to the side to preserve it. So I'm sort of getting away from Nucello there a little bit. But let's see. One more bit, I think. Just little bits to feature. Right, so that's going to be on one panel. It would make sense to put it another piece if there's only two on the opposite side, on the opposite panel. I think, where's the line? Here. Don't know that I'm happy with that there. Just trying to work out where the line for this panel is. And I'm only saying that because I just don't want something chunky caught right on a join. So I'm trying to make sure it's probably about there. That, I like that there. Okay, so I've started stitching this down and I'm doing it's not a whip stitch because that would be this way, but I'm coming in and it's like a blanket stitch without picking up the extra bit. I did a little bit of research, but I could not find what it was called. So I'm basically just doing, it is like a whip stitch, but instead of coming back down under here, I'm just coming along here and then back down. I feel with a whip stitch it's always on a slight angle, and this is the way I get a, well, that's an angle, wasn't meant to be, but it does feel like this way I get a straighter, like a blanket stitch, without actually having to go to all the trouble to do that little hook of getting that bit of material. Just as long as you catch a bit of that backing. I don't go all the way right through to the other side. It is a little bit more difficult getting through the quilting, obviously, because we've got many more layers, but it's pretty easy. Like that. I do love a blanket stitch, and I have done blanket stitch on some bits around here. However, this is just a bit quicker, especially when you're getting pieces down for later. You know, you can do something more special around the edge later if you want to. Don't need my pin there anymore. Go to the corner. And I'm finding this is relatively easy to work. This, because it's long and thin, you can sort of get your hand like that. A bit easier than the large piece that I gave up on. That I'm sure will come out again. Okay, so getting to the end. And I'm just doing, when I get to the ends of these, I'm doing a little double knotted twice. And then coming in under and then out, up further away, and then snipping off. So it's hidden behind there. Just flippy flop this round. So this panel now has another bit of, that's not huge, so this little bit of interest is adding to the panel. Each panel is going to be different, and we do still have some of these little things to add in. However, now that I'm seeing this turned over, I'm seeing, I don't know if I want that white there. I think I'd like to have just more of those backgroundy colours in there. They're just the plain, no pattern, no design. So I'll get a couple of these bits on. Just so I can remember for later. Maybe that's a bit too white. I did find some like this. I think that's a bit too shiny. So I'm just changing my mind about some of these. I've already got the flannel there. I got a lovely gift from Rochelle in Queensland, I think. So she'd sent this beautiful bit of ongles with the pink ribbon, so I used a little tiny bit here, but once again I was just thinking, should I put some up there? But it's just, I might like to tea stain that if I was going to do that. So it's just getting all these little extra bits in. It's there, so I don't want to have this pattern right on that line. So that's going to be clear of that. Just another bit there, though I can probably do that later, because that's just stitching down bits like that, and you don't want to see thousands of bits of that. What I thought I might do is actually pull this back a bit. Just going to undo that. Pull that back a bit so I can see that line. Put this over here so I can stop reaching across. That's a better idea. And what I want to do is actually cut this exact. So now my two ends, just get that out the way, have a look where this one is. So there's that one, because I was thinking about overlapping them, and then I thought, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to do the same as what Corinne did with hers and butt them up against each other, because it'll just be that little bit neater. Right, let's just pull this back a bit, because I don't want to accidentally cut that. Looked like it was in the on the line, on the firing squad. Okay, so these edges now, see, I still haven't worked on the base, so I still haven't really finalised that it's definitely a circle or a square, because things like that can change in an instant. So I need that pin out. And because it's going to be like this, with this being a middle panel, it's going to be a lot easier to join these. So I think probably the best way is going to be to butt them like that. Just pin that. See if I can catch those outer ones especially, and then open it and flatten it. All right, this is a whip stitch. I don't know what that other one was. I think I just made it up. So I'm not doing it too tight, because I want to be able to flatten it out and then use these overhangs to conceal it really. And also on the inside, because I haven't thought about whether I need or want anything on the inside yet, I can actually disguise it with a bit more of this white stuff. Okay, so I've got to the end of that stitch, and I'll just take these pins out that were holding it together. And it sits down pretty well, pretty flat. And what I'm going to be able to do is work out, these ones all pretty much go over that edge, so this can just be at the edge, this piece. Thought that would be easy to rip. So I can look at stitching this edge with this that I had spare. Let's get rid of that bent pin. Get my needle out of the way. I may in fact want to bring this back a little bit, square it up a little bit. Being left-handed, I don't think I can cut that like that without my hand being completely in the way for you. Now will this go over there? Yes. So that's my join being addressed. Not sure I like that wibbly wobbly bit there, a bit wonky. Won't matter because I still haven't worked out what I'm doing at the base. But now that I've got these down, I can start doing whatever sort of stitch I want to cover that up. When I'm using this very, very fine, here it is. Has it got a, no, it hasn't got a label, but it's incredibly fine. It's like a normal sewing weight for a sewing machine or something like that. It's also very pale kind of apricot, so it doesn't show very much. So it's a good one for getting edges down without it being your embellishment stitch. So I might just do a straight running stitch for now to keep it down, because I want to turn it over and have a look at the other side. Ouch. The hazards of stitches the world over. Pins. Because like I say anyway, I will be going over this edge with a bit of coloured thread, making it a bit more decorative like this edge here. Let's just get up here. For now, and cast it off and then have a look at the other side. So of course up here it looks like someone's had a wound and it's been sutured together, but that's not going to show because this turns over and folds over the top. So I do have a fair bit of this left over. But let's just have a look how it's going to look from the inside. It's not too bad if I imagine having another bit of this material, just pretend with this one, and I just put it over there. And it's stitched down. Can you see? See that? It'll just cover that. So like I say, I haven't really, here's the thing, DMC 80 Special Dentalis, DMC 80 cotton crochet 5 grams. So maybe 80 is probably the colour. Doesn't say the weight unless 80 is the weight. Who knows? So I'll be happy with that. Even if I put this panel down, I don't think I'm going to worry about it too much. You can always face your piece on the table where that doesn't show. So if you had your coffee table and you put it in the middle of the coffee table and anyone who viewed it was sitting on a seat facing it, that part could be this way. And having said that, I did say that this was my favourite piece. I said this is a Lucello, and it's like I've added other bits and pieces that aren't, but there is definitely these Lucello bits and pieces all the way through. So I haven't gone too far off the brief. I know I do usually go off the brief, but here we go. So I'm going to do a little bit more work and come back, although I haven't stitched this one down yet. And I do want to get, I'd like to get something here, I think, that somehow weaves it a bit better. I did definitely want to use this bit of Lucello. I think it looks like these flowers go this way. So I'm going to, this will strengthen that join even more. Not that I think this is going to hold heavy duty items that are going to stretch it and make it bag out or anything like that. I don't want this to come all the way up there. Just got to work out where I want it to stop. It's going to be a bit too obvious if it's just a long strip. It's going to look like what I was talking about on the inside, that it's a band-aid covering the wound. So I think I'd like it about here because I can use this other bit somewhere else. I can now look at this being a part of the edging. I've been using a pink along here, which is a variegated, so it goes from a pale pink to a darker pink. This isn't particularly obvious or harsh, but that's just that bit more delicate that might not detract from these little flowers. So I think it's in the other room. So let me keep pinning a few things and talking through my process. I found this little bit of an old hanky which I just adored, and I know that the Lucello fabrics are in the pink, so I think it's fine to put it on. Where it goes, I don't know yet. Let's have a look. I think I'd like to look at it per panel, if you know what I mean. Let's see if I can just get those tucked over. Okay, so we've covered these bits just with a bit of neutral covering the join. So this panel is from here to about here. I added this, and now I'm still thinking this is a great big patch of sort of nothing. So maybe this needs a bit of pink or something here. Maybe I can just tuck that up under there. And that can be going on as part of that undergarment. I used to watch Laurie Marie Jenkins, and she would call the underbits underpants till she got told off by YouTube. Let's just say the undergarments. Isn't that pretty? Straighten it up a bit. I'm not going to add anything more to this until right near the end, I think. This is just not, I mean, I've got these bits still, which I do want to add in. Let's have a look at this panel. So we've got the background colours, but we haven't got any of the Frenchy stuff. And it may be that that's not actually right, unless there's some smaller. Let's see if I can find my little stash here. Some smaller French bits. I love having the idea of having a bit of the French stuff here. That probably needed to have been tucked in under already. So it looked like it was peeping out. So we might reserve that one for that other side. Let's just put this one maybe under here. Because so far I haven't got any text. I'd love to see that little chocolate, vanilla. Actually, no, I don't like that totally straight edge. I want it to peep out, but I don't want to lose too much of the words. So it might require a delicate stitch, that one. Delicate under and delicate over, so as it's not coming loose under there, if you know what I mean. Let's just do this. Okay. There. Bit more French. Where are these little French bits that I had cut out? These are way too big now that I'm looking at them. That might be right under something, but these are good. Just the little tiny snippets. Another bit of snippet. Yeah, these are now, I think, a lot bigger than what I'd like. I do love that though. I want to get that one on if I can. Too big. Isn't it funny? It's how it works. How it works, we just don't know. Okay, I've got a few things to play with. I think that's going to be too big, but I'll just put it on the top of the pile over there. Even the, this will be like peeping out from something. That one I just love because it's fun. All right, I definitely want some, I'm thinking originally that I must have thought that I was having a much bigger turnover, but I've got a bit shy of that because I've decided that I don't want the fringe to cover up a lot of the work. So I'm still going to have to fill in a few bits here. This might work up here for a bit of interest. Just a bit taller. So that's on one panel. So I don't think I want to overkill and do too much of the French stuff. I love this one so much. I'm tempted to think that it has to be a bit obvious, like here. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. We go. Maybe sometimes I wonder if putting an Eiffel Tower on is a little obvious, a bit twee or something. This little spot here has always bothered me a little bit because this is quite see-through, and so I don't mind seeing that through, but I don't like seeing the background through there. So I wonder if maybe a little thing should go there. When we've already added a bit of French up there, a bit of antique quilt. Don't like a head being chopped off. That's covering a bit too much. This little snippet with the corset. That is a classic collage element. Okay, this panel seems a little bit devoid of interest. Those two pinks are a bit close. I get the word corsets on a bit. That, or maybe no, I think, okay, it's just my personal opinion. Other people might think it's perfectly fine, and maybe I'm overthinking, and maybe I'm being finicky, but to have this type here, I love it. But to have that there and then have these, it's like your fringe in your eyes, you know? Do you know what I mean? It's sort of annoying me, and I'm probably just being a bit pedantic about that. That might work better because it's not, it's sort of a bit obscure, it's just bits and pieces. I think I like that better. But this seems relatively a good panel, like a good little complete thing. So that's okay. I'm happy with that one up there. Getting a bit of France into the table vessel, coffee table vessel. Okay, that's, I'm doing all right. We've got a little bit there, a little bit there. Nothing on this one, but we've got that. But I haven't stitched that down, and I don't want to get anything too close to that because that's a bit busy. So do I? It's just not working. That is not working for me. However, that might. I feel it needs something else though. What if? I'm desperate to get this lady in, but she's got no face. She's covered up. No, that's not working. Or a little bit of this maybe. Oh, there's a lot of that there, isn't there? To have a contrast. I think I want to keep a bit of that pink. Just going to have to try and aim to get as much of her face without dropping this piece down too far. So these really, really close ones, like that, I'll probably stitch this one on first and then stitch this over the top so it doesn't take up, you know, both edges are secure rather than just one edge being secure. Now, is that okay with that? I think it is. I mean, I can come over a little bit. So I'm loving this new layer that's developing now and building up. It's quite fun. So don't forget there won't be a gap because I'll manage to butt them up when I'm stitching them. No, you can't really see whether it's a square or a circle. It's taller than I think I was imagining. Maybe that's why I thought I'd have more of a turnover. However, as I hold all of your current project in, you know, by your nice comfy chair or at the sofa or on your coffee table, I think I like it. I like that it's open and that I'll be able to see what's in it, because something happens when you can't see things, and that is you don't know that they're there. All right, got a bit of that there. Now I'm on a bit of a roll of getting as much of the French stuff on. Right, so I've done some running stitch in different places. I like that I've got this pink edging in that stitch I was doing before. It's not quite a blanket stitch. I don't think a blanket stitch is required in this sort of setting because we're not doing an edge that's floating off, but I'm wanting to catch all of the little edges of the threads so they're not getting too out of hand. I like the idea of this one, however, I don't know that this matches this red here. So let me just test a few of these other little bits that I've got. Like this might work because it's down out of the way of that red line. Don't mind that. Doesn't make sense why it would be there, but it's like a little stamp, postage stamp. Of course, I don't have to put everything on. I've got an Eiffel Tower. I've decided I don't want that on. I like having the little ladies on. So this is like, actually, there you are. That's her. I like that. That's better. There's the little lady. Thank goodness for material that duplicates itself, the patterns. Now, this panel here has just got that one and that tiny little bit. That's a very big panel with only one or two little focal points. Something for here. No, just stop. Just stop with that Eiffel Tower. Another little lady. No. I've already got on this panel, because they are it's quite a decent size, isn't it? So there is a lot of interest already with this running stitch, this bit of material that's mirrored up here. We've got the pattern of the edge of the doily. We've got a bit of this pattern up here, although we do want to have a bit more up here. I'm going to put this up here too, just because that's going to just peep through under there. That makes me happy. Yeah, there is here. What's going there? No? No, that doesn't work. Now, some of them are a bit obvious. It's a mustache. Maybe it's time for another little bit of the liberty. Like I say, I have been starting to add a little bit of yellow. All right, let's do a little piece of this. Just get that yellow, get rid of this. Which way? This is an interesting material because this particular one can be up any sort of way and still be interesting. Sorry, my hands are in the way. You can't see what I'm doing there, but I was just trying to tuck it under that bit. Like that. I'm just realising I did say if I was going to do another bit that it would be on the other side opposite it, but it's, I think, next to it now. So bad luck. Bad luck. We're building it up, building up the layers. Don't forget this blue line will, once pressed, disappear. Same here. But it's good to have a bit of it still popping through so I can get an idea of the sides of this vessel. I'm going to go back to the first bit. This is the join, this is this side. So I think the line's about here. Still, I don't mind a little bit of white showing up there, but I think here needs something still. Too thin. Oh, is it far enough away? That's because it's quite dark, this one. So let's just nudge that up under there. I'll probably, to be safe, just put a little bit of something up there and a little bit of something here. Probably get in a little bit of this here. Don't worry, I'm cutting that busy bit off at the bottom there. That's too much. This will just cover a bit of that, and it'll just bring in a little bit of green because in this thread there is this yellow is a bit greenish. It's a yellowy green, so I like that. I'm just keeping that out for now. Back to starting at looking at the overall. I keep getting distracted by the little things that I see that can be just improved upon. All right, here's one panel. I can see that I'll probably put something here at some point, but I think the good thing to do, one panel, let's look at the next one, will be to stitch down this lot and then reassess. So I do like having a bit of negative space, but it's still textural. So it's negative space, but it's not because of the texture. This one needs stuff up here. This might be a good filler up the top of there. And it really blends in quite nicely with this. And I will probably put something here just to cover that bit. I like that. Running out of pins. It's very good to have a lot of pins there. It's just getting that little edge so as there's not this big thing of white. Still might be something here, something small, but let's look at this next panel. Here to here. Okay, it's going to need something in here too. Yeah, I think so. Okay, that's good. I'm glad, happy about all of this, the way all of this is. Got a big night of stitching, and then I can come back. So once all of these little bits are nicely covered and there's no bits of white showing, like there's still another little bit there, I will probably stitch this, as well as mending this edge here, stitch this down, and then I can decide whether or not I want to actually have anything on the inside, which will be a whole new big massive job again if I do decide that. Not that I'm complaining, because I love it. Or if I want to have the odd little tab over. In fact, that might be something I'll do just here for the join. Pay homage to the join. We'll see, not sure. So I'm going to get off and do a whole heap of that, and I will be back. Okay, just to end this video, I'll go through all the things I stitched last night. I have blanket stitched this one, so it's a bit more obvious, the edges. Stitched down these and stitched around the top. So I'll show you each panel. So here, I haven't ironed it yet, so there are still some blue lines there. So here's one side. There's also a little bit of white peeping through after I stitched it, and I'm just deciding whether to leave it or do something about it. So as this will be the end of the video, all of that will come next time. So one panel, two panel or sides of the square, a bit more like this. Here I believe is, oh, there it is, there's the line. So there is still, now that I've stitched it down, still some bits of white. And this last panel. I may in fact add more to it before the next video. We'll see. But that's how it is for now. And the inside, I just put a little strip of this same fabric. I did this not blanket stitch, although I was looking at Tracy Meyer's video, and she was doing a stitch similar and calling it a whip stitch. So maybe it is a version of a whip stitch. I don't know. All I know is a whip stitch generally is like that. Anyway, stop overthinking it, Christina. That is put down. It doesn't matter. Because it's the same colour, it almost, at a glance, it does look like a cover of a seam, but it doesn't look terrible. It's not like a big eyesore. And then I've just stitched a couple of cantha lines down here to kind of keep it in line with all the cantha stitching that I've put before for the background. So there it is. That's the height. It is 21 high.